For the daughters who are triggered by Mother's Day, I am intentionally releasing this letter on Mother's Day because I finally know that I'm not the only one who has such a love-hate relationship with this day. I cannot name a single Mother's Day that I celebrated without mixed feelings. I don't know how old I was when I finally realized that my feelings towards my mother weren't quite as warm and fuzzy as they're supposed to be. At least not in the way it was expressed in the Mother's Day cards or in social media statuses by other daughters who just couldn't imagine a world without their mothers. I, for one, deeply hated Celine Dion's Mama song. Hearing it come on in that Clover ad with that baby carrying a glass of milk for their mom triggered me to no end. I didn't quite know why, but upon later reflection, I realized that I had a sense of guilt for not feeling about my mom the way the song described. You'll always be there every time I fall. You are to me the greatest love of all. You take my weakness and you make me strong, and I will always love you till forever comes. But it was this particular lyric that I just couldn't get behind. Now I know there's no other love like a mother's love for her child. Not only was this not my experience, I just did not believe it was true. More importantly, I think that it is this very notion that there is this magical, otherworldly bond that strikes the moment a mom gives birth to a child that makes moms and daughters who don't feel this way carry so much shame, especially in silence. I realized very early on that it was not popular to openly share my deep disgruntlement and disappointment in the way my relationship with my own mother had turned out. For whatever reason, it is commonly and widely accepted for us to openly share our disappointment and critique of our fathers and their lack of regard for us, but you're not met with the same energy when you openly criticize your mom or even dare to share potential dislike towards them. You'll rarely get the ahs and oohs or me toos for that conversation. In fact, you're lucky if you're not met with the good old, at least your mom is still alive, guilt trip card. Now, don't get me wrong. I completely understand where this sentiment comes from. And as someone whose mom is still alive, I can fully appreciate that I have no idea how this experience affects those it befalls. However, I don't believe it is helpful to disregard the complex feelings that some women have towards their mothers just because they might pass on someday. If anything, it is the fact that we aren't even allowed to openly share such feelings that makes it even harder to work through them and make peace with the fact that they exist. I believe that just as men are hindered from becoming their best selves by their reluctance to confront the ways their fathers failed them as boys, women too cannot fully heal and transform their pain without the space to acknowledge and address the depth of their mother wounds. There is a certain deep level of shame that comes with accepting the fact that you weren't fully loved by the very person that brought you to this world, that you weren't lovingly embraced by the first arms that held you. Admitting that the only human in this entire world who is obligated by nature to love and protect you could not, for whatever reason, is understandably the hardest pill you will ever have to swallow. It is a disappointment beyond what your mind and body can perceive, so I understand why we deny this reality for so long. It is simply too grave and devastating to fully wrap our hearts around. And so we pretend. We say that they did the best they could with what they knew. We say we're grateful we even had a mom, and this may all be true. But it doesn't silence the longing we constantly feel but refuse to confront. It is so much easier to talk about our deadbeat dads. It's to be expected, and most of the people we know can relate. But to admit that we didn't quite feel wanted by our mothers, that their gaze often made us feel like an inconvenience, like yet another responsibility they never wanted but had to fulfill, that may just be too hard for us to bear. But I fear that our refusal to confront this reality also keeps us from confronting the lie that lies dormant in our subconscious that says that we are not lovable. Because how can you believe that you are worthy of a love that is whole, a love that is true, a love that does not leave, a love that does not compare you to what is better, a love that you do not have to compete or beg for, a love that you do not have to earn or shrink yourself to attain, if the one who was supposed to be your first and only true love was your first experience at rejection? Could this be why we settle? Could it be why we overstay our welcome in relationships and friendships where our worth is put into question? Could this be why we never felt like we truly belonged, without filter, without compromising of self, but openly and purely just as ourselves? These are all heavy, loaded questions. But I believe on the other side of confronting them lies our true healing and radical acceptance of not just ourselves, but our mothers. One of my favorite quotes by James Baldwin is, "If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you don't see." And I love the saying so much because I know that often it is what we don't see that has immeasurable power over us. But when we are brave enough to see, when we can put it to the light, whether it is shame or pain, we can finally free ourselves from its grasp and its shackles. And that is to say, admitting that you relate to any of this is not a sign of defeat. It could be the beginning of your awakening if you allow it. Because the truth is, there is immense power in the mother-daughter relationship. So much of who we are comes from our mothers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But before we can change any of it, we first have to accept all of it. We will not heal by denying our scars, neither will we heal by cursing those who they came from. Our healing starts with this here radical honesty, if not with anyone else, at least with ourselves. And once you have found your map to all the wounds you suffered at the hands of your mother, you will also find a map to all the ways you can love yourself whole again. So first, wrap each arm across your chest. Hold yourself together. Whisper, "I am sorry for all the ways you deserved to be loved but were not. I am sorry for every part of you that still aches for your mother's acceptance. But look at you. Aren't you here? Didn't you make it? In spite of all that you lacked? And isn't that the miracle? Isn't that the cure itself? What if you are the miracle and the cure? What if all you needed is everything you already have? Now say, baby, for all the days your mama couldn't love you, I will love you 100 times more. For her and her mother and her mother's mother, and for all the daughters that will come after. It begins and ends with you. Happy Mother's Day.